Hypercharges are a brawler item unlocked when a brawler reaches power level 11. They allow the brawler to, well, hypercharge, giving them a stat boost, a shield, and most importantly, a buffed super. Hypercharges are a pretty new addition to the game, and they were released in the Ranger Ranch update about 9 months ago. So only 30 different brawlers have hypercharges. But even if there's so few hypercharges, somehow many of them are like Brock's Hypercharge Rocket Barrage. Brock's Hypercharge makes his super fire an insane amount of rockets, making it look incredibly broken. But his Hypercharge rockets deal way less damage than a normal super rocket, making his Hypercharge super somehow worse than his normal super. That's an easy fix, isn't it? Just buff the Hypercharge rocket. Nah, that's lame. Give it more explosions instead. There should be so many explosions you can't see anything on screen. Oh wait, that might be broken. Make his Hypercharge rockets deal 1 damage, but he fires 1,000 rockets per second. That should be more balanced. But the Hypercharge that isn't balanced is Pearl's. Her Hypercharge Pyrolytic does nothing. Well, it does spawn a flame ring, dealing damage to brawlers in it for 4.5 seconds. But Pearl's super has knockback, pushing all brawlers out of her super range. And she places the flame ring in her super range. So whenever she uses her Hypercharge, she just saves all enemies from taking damage by the fire. Like what? Is she supposed to be a pacifist or something? And the killing enemies with cookies is only an accident when trying to feed them. In which case they should change her name to Robo Gandhi. For this Hypercharge to ever work, it needs an entire rework. And I have the perfect idea. What is something that everybody likes? Well, not cookies. Don't get me wrong, there are some nice cookies, but there's also stuff like this. Why would you put seeds on it? Is it chicken food? But one thing cookies can give you that everybody loves is money. Pearl's Hypercharge should make her open a cookie shop that earns her money. How does that help you win? I don't know, maybe bribe opponents or something. I'm sure the pros will find out the strat eventually. Brawl's Hypercharge Thorns make the walls it creates with his super deal damage to anybody touching them. Do I even need to explain why this is bad? Touching a wall happens way less often than you might think, since you literally have to walk into the wall to be able to take damage. And who does that, especially against a thrower? If you are a person who's consistently dying to Sprout's hypercharged wall, there must be something wrong with your brain, and you need to run to your closest doctor immediately. The Hypercharge might be improved by increasing the area the walls deal damage, but I think Sprout's Hypercharge, like Pearl's, is fundamentally broken and needs a rework. So I suggest Sprout's Hypercharge does something else plants are really good at. Drugs! If an enemy sees a Hypercharged Sprout wall, they should be drugged, making them hallucinate enemies and have their controls randomly rebind for the rest of the game. So for example, the gadget button could be move forward and the 30 emotes could be shoot. That should finally make my wasted gems worth it. Next up, Mico. His Hypercharged sound check allows his super to stun enemies hit by it, and stuns are really good, so his Hypercharge should be too, right? Well, in his super, Mico jumps up in the air and stays in the air for 6 seconds, and Hypercharge is 5 seconds long. So if you use your Hypercharge super, when you land, you won't be hypercharged anymore. Luckily, you only need to be hypercharged when you start using a super, but it's still not good. He takes so long to charge his Hypercharge, so you're most likely only to get 1 per game. And then for it to usually only be a small stat boost or a stun just isn't worth it. So what should the Hypercharge do? Well, Mico is a movie guy. He has a microphone. And I do too. So Mico, what do you say? We both have microphones. Why don't you make your Hypercharge make people subscribe to my YouTube channel? Only 8% of the people who are watching are subscribed, and they really should press that button, and you can help by forcing them to do it. So what do you say, Mico? What do you say? What do you say? What have I done? While I'm trying to get away with murder, I might as well talk about Charlie's Hypercharge Pestilence. When Charlie hits an enemy with her Hypercharge super, she summons 3 spiders around the cocoon that walk towards enemies and deal damage to them. Yeah, these 3 spiders are identical to her gadget that also summons 3 spiders, so the Hypercharge basically gives you 1 gadget. It's not a bad gadget, but it's not a flying hook or something cool like that. And her Hypercharge, like Mico's, takes decades to charge, so to be able to use 1 extra okay gadget per game isn't as impactful as other Hypercharges. But what if we add more gadgets? What if Charlie's Hypercharge would make her use 1 of every gadget in the game? Her Hypercharge would then instantly give her super attack, make her invisible, give her a 40% shield, and make her next attack 18 times, summon a Mr. P Porter each time, and make her move wherever she shot. And that's only 6 of the 160 gadgets in the game. Charlie would be broken. But one brawler that isn't is Crow. His Hypercharge utility knives makes his dagger thrown by a super return to the point they were fired from, like a Griff super or Call attack. This does make the super able to deal twice as much damage and basically destroy a high save. But just like the last Hypercharges, his Hypercharge takes super long to charge, and the chance of actually getting 2 times the damage is basically zero, as enemies have time to move out of the way of the daggers before they return. So the Hypercharge just isn't worth the wait. But a great way of making it viable would be to buff the poison instead of the daggers. Since Crow fires so many daggers with his super, most enemies will be hit by at least one and poisoned. So a poison buff could have a large impact. But what would that buff be? Well, I suggest that enemies hit by his Hypercharged daggers would have their devices poisoned, or in other words, get a virus. That virus would then maybe fill the device with illegal documents and notify the FBI with the exact location of the owner and the device. This would help you a lot, since you can't play Brawl Stars while being sent to live the rest of their lives in a high security prison, just like I will. So I guess I'll see you in 3 lifetimes. And that should be enough time for Supercell to add all of my ideas, and if they haven't, I'll kill Larry. Oh, they did it first!